Backing up a little bit, I was just thinking about this. How many photographs do you have after so many years?
I don't even know, and I don't. I may not be able to count that high. I don't know. Probably, I'm sure, thousands of negatives. To me, the precise moment that you press the shutter, getting the frozen moment, that's what I'm interested in. That's why I'm not that interested in film. I'm more interested in a frozen moment in time. I do not view myself as an art photographer. I see myself as a documentary photographer. It was important to me to record the people who are of the community, born and raised there, have a deep historical sense of what it is, and they do.
Recognize your own body parts.
So we got human body parts?
Everything from the root to the tooth. That means from the nose to the tip of the tail. It's on that pit right there. So everybody do what they do. Eat and enjoy. Yeah, it was Miss Liver, right?
This is, we're setting up for our barbecue meal, our main meal of homecoming. We get together for all kinds of events, or non-events. We get together for all major holidays, minor holidays, parents' birthdays, siblings' birthdays, no reason at all. We get together.
With family.
Under the tree out here.
What is County Line?
Well, it's an unincorporated community in Northwest Nacogdoches County near the town of Douglas. I went to County Line the first time the day after Thanksgiving in 1988. It was Dr. F.E. Abernathy, who was a family friend, who told me about Freedom Colony. And I didn't hear that term used for another dozen years or so. But basically, these are places where blacks went after Emancipation, formed their own communities, owned their own land, and that's what really got me. I had no idea that was even possible so soon after being enslaved, that you could have black landowners, not just a little bit, but hundreds of acres in some cases. So that really intrigued me, to say the least. Ab introduced me to a man named Marion Upshaw, who was born and raised in County Line. I went and visited him and told him that I was a photographer. I was interested in taking pictures in the community and learning about the history of the place. And Marion suggested that I introduce myself to his Uncle Monell and, make a pitch to him. He did not volunteer to go with me.
And by yourself?
Oh, by myself. And I'll never forget how I felt. At that point, I was beginning to have some serious doubts about my endeavor, shall we say. But anyway, I got there, I parked under the big red oak tree in front of their house, and I saw a very large man in a hog pen that I took to be Monell. And so I went over and introduced myself, told him what I would like to do, and asked him if that would be okay with him. And he paused for a moment and said, "Well, I don't see why not." And that's all there was to it. From that day forward, he and his wonderful wife, Leota, made me welcome in their home. What I really like most of all is to get a well-composed, naturally occurring scene that didn't have anything to do with me. I just happened to be there and could frame it properly. Just as simple as that, and just as complicated as that. The picture on the cover of the book, which is interestingly on the first roll of film I ever shot out there, it's a photograph of Monell sitting on a bench, and one of his grandsons is sitting on his knee. at first glance, when people look at it, they say, "Oh, isn't that sweet?" But Monel is holding a switch in his left hand, and PJ, the grandson, is clearly aware that there's a switch in his grandfather's hand, and that's why he's being so solicitous in the picture. Early on, when I was in County Line, I was very aware of being in a different frame of reference from whatever I was used to. I mean, I'm a white guy in an African American community environment. I mean, I knew that. I mean, that was in large part what intrigued me. It was something different. I was very curious. I was still, in the early days especially, amazed that it was even possible that such places would exist. And yet, as it turns out, there were hundreds of them in East Texas alone. So I went out there as much as I could so I could be as familiar as possible, and therefore ignored if possible. But I think I achieved that up to a point because the family itself did become fairly accustomed to me. About 3 years after I started going out there, back to Leota, on a homecoming Sunday in church full of people, she stood up and claimed me as her foster son. To everybody's shock, mine and I'm sure everybody else, I was essentially adopted into this black family, and I do consider them my second family, and they, at this stage in time, I'm sure they consider me a part of the family too. Freedom colonies have largely been ignored up to this point in our history books. That is beginning to change. I can see it happening. It's a part of American history that needs to be more generally recognized because it presents African Americans freshly out of slavery in a much stronger light. They were not sharecroppers or domestics always, because these folks created communities of their own under very difficult circumstances, and they made it work. It's hard to say enough about that. I mean, it's a very personal and emotional experience for me, and it has made me, I think, a better person, a more widely understanding person of the nature of the differences between black and white, and hopefully things that we can do about that.